what day it is?
I have no idea. What day is it?
It is Techmas for 2022. And for that,
Merry Techmas, LSR7. Merry Techmas to you.
we need to get it more festive.
I think so.
Let's do it.
All right.
1, 2, 3. Woo!
You know what, Krista? Anytime I can put a hat on when we're doing these meets and the shiny glare from the bald head can go away, it's a good day.
Perfect. That's kind of why we brought the hats in.
Very good.
So,
Very good. Very good.
You're welcome, everybody. Hey, welcome to Techmas 2022. We are part of the Instructional Technology Specialist team. I'm Krista Cantrell.
And I'm Cam Hill. Again, we are sharing all of the resources with you today, and we're diving a little bit deeper into Schoology with this one. So we've been waiting anxiously to kind of get into this and unwrap some different levels of Schoology for you. And so we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like and maybe kind of rethink some of the things you've been doing in class with your kids.
Unwrap.
I
heard that.
I like it.
A little bit about Techmas. This actually started a couple years ago when the team ended up purchasing products for the district. It was all kind of a push of teachers who were working with a blended environment or solely online, finding resources and asking for the district to be supportive and helping and purchasing those things. And the ITS department back then purchased all of these resources for you. And this year's goal for the district is elevate the essentials. So for Techmas 2022, we're not bringing anything new to you. Instead, we're going to re-gift. We're going to re-gift.
Put it back in a different package and just unwrap it again.
Yeah. And giving you some little tips on how to elevate the tools that you're currently using. Today, we're talking about Schoology, which is not new. It actually was adopted back in 2016. That was before we were in ITS.
Yeah, right.
So thankfully, the team back then jumped in, saw the need for a learning management system here in the district, a place where students and teachers can put instruction, whether they are in person, whether they are fully online, having that blended opportunity put in there. And that was after a year of having one-to-one Chromebooks in the district. So today we're going to jump in and to Schoology.
Yeah, let's get going. So we think about Schoology, we think of it as the hub for our school district. You'll hear us speak to that a lot because no matter where you're using it, how you're using it, it is a place that can house all sorts of things that really promote our 4 C's, which is something that we as a department and a team like to think about when we work with you all as staff members. Think about 4 C's: collaboration, communication, creativity, and critical thinking. And so we think about it as a hub that kind of relates to the different relationships between different stakeholders within LSR7. So we think about teacher to student. That's the one that we're most familiar with, a lot of us, because that's how we push out our content. We have those courses that are pre-built for us. We're made if we need those extra courses and things like that. We also have extracurricular groups that are created by teachers to share different information and push things out to students as well. So a good kind of blend and mix of like 2 different types of environments. And sometimes that can get a little confusing, but again, that course is that more robust, how we handle that instruction, those assessment pieces, those types of things. And then groups are another opportunity for staff to push out to students, just another way to collaborate, share information, go through and do that kind of stuff. We think teacher to parent, that's also another really big one. We definitely want parents and guardians involved. And so that group space is usually the better one for that, just because of the types of resources and updates that we can push through in those groups and kind of sharing out. We know a lot of teachers really value that space to communicate with parents and family members. And so thinking about that teacher to parent, teacher to guardian, that's kind of the place that we live within Schoology. Admin to staff, another kind of good balance between course and group, depending on what the whole idea and goal is for your learning environment and your learning communities. And so, building updates, resources, just keeping that information housed in that one spot for your staff is really important as an admin. So creating a course for that area or a group for that area, just kind of depending on what you want to utilize it for. And then admin to parents, again, the group is a great space for that as well within Schoology. We've seen a lot of admin that have kind of cultivated that over the years and created things where they can share building wide. It's not just specific to a certain class or a certain grade level. You can kind of share out that way as well. So when we talk about it being the hub, it really is. That's where a lot of our information is shared, where we can interact, we can collaborate and do those types of things with all of the people that are really involved in this whole learning process.
Absolutely. Over in the chat, I'm dropping the link. As teachers and staff and students, we access Schoology through schoology.lsr7.org. Parents on the other end, go to Schoology.com to get in. So if there's any discrepancy, it's not letting you sign in. It has a great Google, what's the word I'm looking for? sign on.
Yeah.
So that when you go to this, it just signs you right in with your Google account that you have through the district.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to bounce back and forth between those, whatever role you're in. So it's important that you have both of them just in case you're making sure that you're getting in that right spot for wherever you need to be. So we definitely like to remind at this time of year and all throughout the year of those options in terms of how you're signing in, where you're trying to go and log in and do those types of things. So,
yep. Today, though, we're looking at collaboration specifically within Schoology, and we're going to focus on two materials that are often overlooked when you are in a Schoology course. So again, we're looking at a course where instructional content happens, and we're going to look at discussions and media albums. So I'm going to jump over really quickly into the professional learning course underneath of instructional technology. Cam, do you want to drop a link in for this? So if you want to follow along, we have a folder in here for Schoology specifically. Quick video in there that you can watch on your own time that talks about how it's a digital hub and it supports curriculum, communication, instruction, collaboration in the classroom. But today we're going to dive into Schoology discussions and media albums. Looking at this first one, discussions are interactive for your classroom. So when we think about a discussion, these are things that we already are doing in the classroom. Most often it is student to group, a teacher to a student. But when we bring it into this online environment for your blended learning, as a teacher, I'm able to now hear from all students in my class. Peers can hear from each other, and it broadens the level of communication that happens. So when we look in here, we've got some examples for you of discussions. Oftentimes teachers are using discussions with just here's your prompt, students are responding, but let's look at some other options that you have in here to promote that collaboration. The first discussion that is in here, it has one that has embedded content. So when we look at it, you will notice that it has a Google Slides presentation embedded directly into the description, and it's asking for students to do a written response. So when we look at the directions or the description, students are to explore course organization strategies. So as a student, we can click through here and see the content. Again, so you can bring this in from your drive, you can bring this in from your device, any instructional content that you have. Down at the bottom, discussion prompts. Here you go. Who are you? How will we organize your online course content? And then a great tech tip down here, because I know as teachers, we often are repeating ourselves again and again and again. So if you put in these tech tips or little spots that promote students to be self-learners, as they're coming down here to type in the response, if they forget what they need to do, they have a visual or at least the text to remind them how to do that. So again, students can do a text response in here, and this one shows it with embedded content.
That's great too. It's not, I mean, they're not recreating things that you've done in the past. It's kind of imagining it a little bit differently, giving it a little bit more accessibility to certain students that maybe aren't as apt to do certain things in terms of a discussion in the classroom. So taking something that you've done before and kind of looking at it a little bit different lens, but then also providing an outlet for students to respond and discuss in different ways is really cool.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I'm also thinking about a student that wasn't in class today.
Absolutely, right.
And you already have your presentation that maybe you shared to the class whole screen, walking through your presentation. Your students that aren't there, or maybe they left and they came back at the tail end of it, they now have your resource there. So whether they were gone, they're coming in late, or maybe they were in person, but they just need that reminder of the content that we were doing in class.
Absolutely.
So embedding your content. The next discussion that is in here is another embedded content example. However, this one is embedded from YouTube. So again, the teacher has gone into YouTube, and we'll show you how to do that here in a little bit. Pulled in content from YouTube, stuck it in here, so students are able to watch the trailer video. They are considering and thinking about what's going to happen in the story or how they may rewrite the ending. And there's the prompt here to write a narrative response with 5 sentences to share your version of the story.
And how awesome is that too? It just lives in one space. We don't have kids clicking back and forth, going different tabs. We've got everything kind of mapped out here in terms of instruction, but then also all of the tools that you need in order to complete this discussion activity, just living in one space.
Yeah, so it's a great part about having embedded content. Okay. The next one in here, I'm going to give a little backstory on this one. It's about explaining fractions. This teacher actually differentiated his instruction, gave each student their personalized index card with fractions that they had to add together. Cam, you're a math guy.
Yep.
I could probably give you any fraction to add together.
Yeah, you could. I mean, I've been out of the classroom a little bit,
but I bet you could do it.
I might be able to do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he would need one that's more advanced. I need like 1/2 plus 1/2 because I could figure that's one. Yeah, I could do that part. The teacher, knowing his students, was able to give each child their very personalized, differentiated card. And the directions on this is to create a video discussion where you model how to solve the fraction. So again, the student's now going to create a video and to be able to explain how they're solving it. Thinking of me as a teacher, this allows me to not just see their answer, but I can see and hear their thinking as they're doing it. The follow-up on it is to, once your video is posted, view 3 other classmates' video and leave your solution to their problem in the comment box. So now we have students not only solving their own problem, they're getting the opportunity to solve somebody else's. Maybe they do want to challenge themselves and do a CAM type problem or try something different. I'm sure the teacher has set up the environment also, so it's a safe place to fail too.
Well, absolutely. And then you have, just from the teacher side of it too, thinking math teacher, like I'm not carrying a stack of papers, right? Whether it's a notebook or just even an individual assignment, it's all here in one spot where the kids can get back to it. They can comment and interact with their peers going over the same types of problems too. And sometimes, even if you see one student kind of solving a similar problem, that student then has more confidence. Hey, I know that maybe this is where I maybe made a mistake in my own. This is great because I'm not only commenting on theirs, but now it gives me the confidence to go in and say, yeah, I can do that problem and share my work here in this space too.
Yeah. So with this video option, you're also giving students voice, having that safe classroom environment. When we watched this one before, like real time in the classroom, some students watched it and realized that they had solved it incorrectly. So they were able to learn from the original poster. Or this one specifically, they had vocabulary built in there where they were talking numerator, denominator, improper fractions, proper fractions. So just with a simple task of, hey, solve this fraction, adding to another fraction, the teacher now has embedded in the 4 C's with critical thinking and collaboration, communication, creativity.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, in terms of how you're kind of showing off your work and things like that too. I mean, not every student's going to do exactly the same too. So the little creative piece as well there. So
awesome. Okay, this next one is also has an embedded video in it. So again, the embedded piece is what teachers often forget about or thinking about how students are going to be responding. This one has the embedded video. The teacher who's down here in the video, she actually did a screen recording of herself, much like kind of what we're doing here. You'll notice here is the title of the discussion, but it is exactly the content that is in here. So she is supporting her students with giving some more instructional content about, hey, remember when we were doing this in class? Don't forget to do these things. Here's what I'm expecting for you. So just reiterating that, because again, as classroom teachers, we repeat ourselves.
What tool did she use there?
Ooh, this was also part of TechMus. We just finished talking about it earlier this morning.
Which one? Screencast-O-Matic. John and Corey already did one with that. But also, again, you app smashing here, right? We're getting our learning management system working with another thing that we talked about in terms of a tool that you can use. So that's another feature within Schoology. We kind of have some of those integrations. We can embed things that are other tools that we use. So just a great reminder of the different types of things that we can utilize within our learning management system.
Speaking of Screencast-O-Matic in our previous sessions, you can find all of these are recorded. They will live later in our Schoology course as well as the YouTube channel. But if you want some tidbits on what was been happening in the morning, go jump into Twitter and check out the hashtag
LS. Oh, no. I started wrong. TechMus got me all excited. It is TechMus in LSR7. TechMus in LSR7 is that hashtag. And so the nice thing about social media, sharing out things that we've been utilizing today as well, it lives in that space. And so in the chat, we've dropped a link to that so you guys can kind of follow along and see what we've done. But TechMus in R7 is kind of our hashtag that kind of shows off what we've been doing today. So if you get a chance, jump in there and take a look at some of the other things we've been discussing.
Absolutely. All right. The other things we have in here for Schoology discussions, because Cam, I'm noticing we're going to run out of time shortly.
Yeah.
The bottom one here, Schoology discussions in LSR7, this is your chance to actually go in and experience a Schoology discussion as a student. So when you are in this course, jump in and check out Schoology discussions in LSR7. Some of you I know are dying to know, how do you get that embedded content into your discussion? Shall we, Sean?
I think so. Really quick.
This will be our gift to you, is showing you how to do it.
Early gift.
Okay. Add materials is where you're going to find all of your Schoology content, going down to discussion. And when you open up any of these materials to start building, that's going to look very familiar, no matter whether it is an assessment, a media album, all of the things, we're going to give it a great title. You're going to put in some great directions for your students. Type and talk at the same time. But you have your rich text editor here at the top. The magic button for embedding content is right here. Insert content. If you have an image that's already on your device, bring it in. So thinking of, you've had your Surface Book and you've taken a picture of an anchor chart, the whiteboard student work, bring it right on in here. You can also add directly from YouTube. So when you click the YouTube button, you can search by title, you can drop in the URL that you have just put in there, and it will automatically embed it in the Schoology. So kids aren't going to YouTube.
Nope, they're not going to YouTube. They're staying in one space to do all of this work, which is so nice to just build it right here.
Yeah. You have the option to enable grading. If you have multiple sections set up, you can decide who gets what. And then we're going to hit the create button. And that's creating your discussion, being able to use those embedded features that are in there.
So awesome. So awesome. Should we share a little bit more?
Let's do it.
I think so. All right, let me bounce over here. I'm going to share my screen really quick. We'll get going here. Another thing that we are kind of focusing in on with this is also kind of going through and sharing some media albums. That's another piece of Schoology in terms of how we can promote a little bit of collaboration and some communication, those two specifically with our students in our classrooms. We even talked about with our tech reps this year, kind of reimagining some things and how they've used those in the past. And so there's a space that's in this course as well that we will share with you guys where you can kind of share out some things that you've done with media albums, or even think of some things that you've seen in the past. When we click on the Schoology media albums, we talk about kind of specifically what that looks like. It can be a collection of images, audio files, video files, those types of things. One other thing that we want to remind you guys about in both of these folders, Krista did a great job of kind of highlighting some of the things that we're talking about as well. So if you need to go back and just have a refresher on using media albums, or even thinking about the discussions, there's some short videos in each of these folders too that kind of walk through the steps on how you can create those and how you can use those in your class. So we've kind of talked a little bit about these with some discussions, but also just a good way to kind of share out and look at some of these examples here, just a way that you can kind of share things within your course and in your groups with media albums. Here's an example from a teacher with anchor charts. So just kind of going back and having that physical copy be a digital footprint or a digital living piece that can be accessible to students. When we click in here, you can see some of these that were created by the teacher. You got your album names when you create an album. You also who they're added by, whether it's a teacher or a student. We'll show you how you can set that up, and you can also edit or add captions here as well. And then you have options for downloading these pictures as well. So students can always come back and save these as they need them, especially if they're looking to study certain things, or if they're trying to remember what they did this week in class and have that pulled up in front of them. They've got all of these available to them.
I'm jumping back, Cam, to having all of my anchor charts all over my room, or they were kept on one spiral,
Right,
and we just had to flip and flip. But now students would have access to them whether they are in the classroom, whether it's been 3 months and they want to go back and continue to work on whatever the narrative is.
And we take the time to create these awesome anchor charts, right? I mean, for me as a middle school math teacher, probably wouldn't have created something as special as this. But if I did, right, it would be there, and it'd be a place where kids can go back and always have it within that course and just be accessible for everyone. So that's a really cool feature, kind of looking at it from that lens, having a place where it's living in that specific spot. Another great use for this is to kind of get that communication rolling and that collaboration within class. And so one of the examples we really like is a media album that we've used with different groups throughout the years here called Where Am I in LSR 7. And so this is a really great media album because when you look at the images in here and you click in here, you've got images from different learning environments with different people involved. And so this can really be another good conversation starter. I can kind of pinch and zoom on my Surface Book and make it bigger, right? The kids on their Chromebooks can do this as well, because maybe that image doesn't show up as nice as you'd like. And now you can clearly see, maybe I've got some clues here. I'm looking at this teacher. The kids are a little bit bigger. I see black and gold. I do see an MS, so I'm thinking maybe that's from Pleasant Lee. And so we start talking about what this classroom's doing, what they're talking about. And so kids can have that option to have that in front of them and see these types of things, whether they're the ones that are creating the content and sharing these images, or you have these pre-made as a teacher. It's just a great tool and resource, again, to kind of give you another lens of sharing some of the information that you're trying to discuss and talk about in class. Right now, all we have is just the image, right? You can see who posted it, what the name of the image is, all those types of things. Here in just a minute, we'll show you how you can kind of edit media albums to make them more specific to what your goal is in mind in terms of how you're sharing and collaborating in class. But again, just another really good tool, really good feature here to share some things. And so as we look at some of these other ones, we can probably see places we recognize. And again, you can get those conversations starting when sharing a media album similar to this. One other one that we'll share really quick is another good one. This is where students really had a lot of kind of buy-in in terms of creating this media album because they're the ones that shared the content, right? And so this is from a class where they created their own, they were doing a different unit of study within their 4th grade classroom, and they created their own pottery. And so if we look at this one and we zoom in here, we can see the image, but then also you'll notice some of the captions that are involved are just kind of giving a description of the work that they created, which is really nice too. So giving the students kind of that power to add to this media album, have a space where they can share their work and even show a little bit more discussion-wise. And then you'll notice down here, I actually have an option to write a comment. So that is a feature as well. When you create a media album, you can give the power to the people that are in that group or in that course, and they can give comments, they can give feedback that way. And so that's a really nice feature when you're trying to share and collaborate and communicate with this tool as well.
I was going to say, think about the power of that as me as a student, I am now sharing with you this creation. And if we were to just do an in-person walk around, another student coming up, what details can they notice? But now I have some feedback from my classmates.
Mm-hmm. So when we're building this, let's just kind of show you this as well when we're building this. So as I create an album, right, and I'm looking at this, if I go to add materials, right, I've got add media album, so we can kind of see what this looks like. And again, this looks very similar to what we did with our discussion as well, just kind of adding it in the same spot, in the same location. So we can call this our media album example. And when we do this, we can give a description, but then we have a lot of different options. If we're linking sections within our Schoology course, we can make it available to all sections or just specific ones. We can individually assign media albums. That's an option for a lot of things that we create and cultivate within Schoology, which is a great resource or tool. We can have comments enabled or disabled, right? And so we saw that with a couple of different examples. We can also have students and instructors be the ones adding the media. So maybe I'm the one that wants to start this and create this myself. Maybe I also want to have that in there as well. And so if we need to ever copy the courses, we have that available as well, and we can create from there. So just a lot of different features, a lot of different options, again, in terms of how you want to create some interaction, some collaboration and communication with those. Just like we had in our discussions, because we're kind of getting close here on the end of time, I just want to highlight here, we have a media albums and LSR7 included in this folder as well. And so when we click in here, what you will see are our 4 C's, right? And so when we're looking at that, trying to zoom in here a little bit so you guys can see that a little bit more. But when I click on here, you think about collaboration, right? We think about communication. We think about critical thinking and creativity. What we have kind of set up with this media album, when we go back to it here, the directions say, view each of these images posted and consider how Schoology media albums can support the 4 C's in your classroom space. So again, we're taking images here, right? We're taking image files, but then we're kind of creating a space for some collaboration, for some communication in terms of what do we see within our school district? How can we cultivate and create through the 4 C's within our classrooms, but then specifically using those media albums. So you see collaboration, when you click on there, you've got your descriptor, and you've got even an option to save this. So if you really like these images, you can save them and use them for your own presentation if you'd like to.
Whoa, Cam.
What?
You could do what?
You can save them and use them for your own presentation. If I click right here on that file, it's going to start a download, and I can save that image. So if it's something I like,
do that too?
I think so. Yeah, right. Everybody that's in Schoology has these features, and it's based on the way we set up this media album.
So I'm thinking of me as a classroom teacher creating an album for a unit of study that we're doing, but I have very specific pictures that I want students to do. Maybe it's for my youngest learners, who I don't necessarily want them going out and doing a Google search. Or maybe it's very specific content of looking at the anatomy of a heart, and I have very specific pictures I want for them. I can put those in there, and students can then download them and put them into creating resources outside of that. Again, that hub concept, right? We're utilizing our tools the way that we would like, but also building that space where it's safe for students to go in and work and collaborate and do the things that they need to. So just another kind of tool here that kind of reflect on our work today. And so whether you're watching this live or if you have a chance to go back and watch the webinar later on, you can come in here and create a comment on where you see some of these things happening and how you can use those with media albums. Absolutely. Absolutely. So talking about the discussions and media albums, discussions get used pretty frequently, but when we talk about embedding the content to support your students, whether it's accessibility or just the reminders of how to do things, bringing in your content in there, just really empowering the students to take the learning a step further. Media albums, you have the option. You know what we didn't talk about?
What's that?
We talked about you can put images in there. What else can you put in a media album, Cam?
Audio files.
Yep.
And video.
Video files, yeah.
So they're allowed.
Putting in GIFs in there too.
Yep.
How crazy is that? So thinking about what content it is that your students need, especially thinking about how students are going to respond and connect and communicate with each other through these two Schoology materials. Awesome. Well, Cam, this has been a whirlwind of Schoology for Techmas.
How did we get to this point where we are almost to the end of our time here? I can't believe it.
It's time to start wrapping up. We do have a couple of resources to share for you. Cam, I'm going to take over the screen.
Okay.
And we have links for you. I'll put up this next one. Links for you that if you want to learn more, again, it's a link that jumps you back into the Schoology professional learning course.
There we go.
And there's resources specifically for the instructional tools that we have, as well as in Schoology, the collaboration in courses, a link for that. So if you want to learn more, you can jump in those, check out those links, jump into the course. There is also the videos will be recorded and dropped back into the course as well as on our YouTube channel. Can't wait to check out Twitter. Remember, it's the hashtag TechmasNR7. So feel free.
Did you say that right this time?
I don't know.
I didn't get it right the first time. I feel really bad about it.
Techmas.
Hashtag Techmas.
NIN.
There we go.
R7.
NR7.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
So
Good
make
job.
sure if you're out there on Twitter, do a search for that. Make sure you're posting, sharing. We would love to hear all the great things that you're doing in Schoology because there's a lot of awesome happening out there already. So feel free also to jump into the discussion, and the media album, and share the awesome that you're doing already in the district.
We appreciate you taking the time to join us today, and we're really excited to kind of see where these things take off because, again, just thinking about it again and seeing and sharing with other people within the district, I think is that really big, big jumping board, if you will, for or sledding hill. Maybe we'll go the time just kind of getting started there and then really taking off, I think is probably the best way to describe it this time of year. So we appreciate you guys taking time to be here. Happy holidays from our team. We really hope you guys enjoy the next couple weeks and wrapping up and then spending time, much needed time at home celebrating with family and friends.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, guys. We need some music on here. Can you not sing anything?
I can't sing anything. Deck the halls with Techmas tools. Fa la 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 la.
No.
La la.
They're still here. They must really want to hear you sing.
There we go.
See, that
It's
got
okay.
pulled out here.